Hey, everybody, welcome back to So Who Are You Really? Real Life Spirituality. Again, I'm joined by the hosts, Bryan, Winston, and Jody Lemieux. Welcome, guys. Welcome back.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
So on our inaugural episode, we were talking a little bit about, each of you, obviously, the mission of this series and what spirituality kind of meant to each of you individually. But one of the things that came up during that was Jody was talking about defining spirituality as our human experience. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, Jody?
Absolutely. So for most of my life, I felt life was happening to me as a victim. And so when I had this mindset of life's happening to me, I was living my life as a human, having spiritual experiences. I was a very religious person. I would attend church, and I was seeking outside of myself. When in fact, when I became aware of being a spirit, having a human experience, it changed my victim mentality to winning mentality. I recognized the power within me rather than the power from outside of myself. So I took responsibility for my actions and recognized that things are happening for me rather than to me. And so when I flipped this perspective in my life, I was able to shift my life personally, in relationships. And yes, I went from being an employee to owning my own business. It took quite a bit of shifting within myself to recognize the power within me rather than it being outside of myself.
Let me just nail down a little bit there. You said, and this one jumped out at me, things were happening for me instead of happening to me.
Yes. So experiences I'm having in life are experiences for my growth and expansion, rather than feeling as though I'm being victimized or feeling as though life's happening to me. I'm really the one who's experiencing. I'm really the one who is creating my experiences.
That is a heck of a mind shift there, because the victim mentality is what people generally play up, and it's hard when you're in the middle of something bad to happen. Go, well, this is a great opportunity. But is that kind of what you're trying to imply there?
It is what I am saying. Yes.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have thoughts on this, Bryan?
Yeah, you know what? You make a good point, Chris. That most people, from what I understand and what I've experienced, life is happening to them. Right? Things happen to them, and I think, and we've all been at a place. We will be at a place again where something happens to you, right? A sickness, losing money or whatever it is, right? And what Jody has begun training, she started to realize and notice is no. It may appear that something's happening to me, but no, this is happening for me. This is actually beneficial for me. And I think that what Jody is an example of is how we as people and as humans are evolving. Right? She is going through her own personal and has gone through her own personal evolution. But I think what we're coming to is this idea that since we are one, that everything that's happening in our experience is actually for us, set up by us to some degree, whether it's conscious or subconscious. And I think, for lack of a better term, it's better that way. It's better. It feels better to with the idea that, I'm creating this. This is for me. And I love the way that Jody has reframed, because you have an opportunity to look at it either way. You could definitely look at a situation and say, I lost my job. Oh, this is happening to me. This sucks. You can look at that. That is available to you. But there's also, once you realize that you have a choice, you could also look at, I lost my job. Okay. Although this feels uncomfortable, this is happening for me. And this is an opportunity for me. As uncomfortable as it feels. Right. So that's what I see and what Jody's is sharing. I think that she typifies what the evolution that we're all going through is.
Not to get really esoterical, but I know you guys love that anyway. So when you talk about these things are happening for you, Jody, do you feel that it is kind of, God, higher power, universe presenting that to you by design? Or is it sometimes things just happen, but you're taking the opportunity to play that to your advantage? How would you fall on that?
It's a co-creation. So using the spirit, having a human experience. So my divineness, my oneness coming through me, through my human experience, I'm in co-creation. So whether it's planned or whether it's unfolding as I evolve and become in alignment with my source, as I articulate and my language evolves and my experiences evolve, my life evolves.
I love the language she uses.
Yeah.
I can give some examples. I believe examples are really helpful.
Yes.
So I'm wondering how deep to go here. Okay, so I'll give an example of having a fever. So I had this experience where I was being courageous and taking a financial risk in my business. I put the financial risk out there. I ran the credit card number, and the credit card appeared to be declined. And so more than once, it happened twice in a row. And I left my computer to go into the kitchen to have a snack to settle my energy of feeling frustrated. I was loving my frustration, recognizing how frustrated I was. And when I continued in the frustration, again, the second time the credit card declined. After I had a snack and calmed and said to myself, what is this experience teaching me? What is this that I've created? About an hour later, I experienced a fever. I experienced body chills. I experienced feeling fatigued. And so I chose to lay down and take a nap. And for about 4 or 5 hours, I was feverish. I felt feverish. I had the chills. I was in bed, sleeping, waking up, sleeping. And within a matter of 2 days, I went towards my banking account. And wouldn't you know it, the credit card went through on that day. On the day I was experiencing a rejection of the credit card, it actually went through. So having a human experience, I could have continued the frustration and called the bank and called the credit card company and continued the frustration. However, I recognized the power of my frustration and what I was able to accomplish by loving my frustration, by surrendering and letting go and laying down and allowing God's source universe to support me. So I co-created with source the moving my business forward in a financial investment.
Loving your frustration. I've got to explore that one further. Sorry, Bryan. I was wanting to wait to answer that, but man.
No. Look, so I think it could be helpful even to think about what love is when we talk, because if we think about the I guess the commonly accepted idea of what love is that love is a feeling. And maybe that's right. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't think that's the whole. From my experience, I don't think that's the whole of it. It's just a warm feeling or a connected feeling with someone. I think that's just a piece of the experience. If we think about what love is like attention. Love is it's an attention, and it's a quality of attention. So the fact that Jody can say, I was loving the frustration, it sounded like she was just very aware of it and appreciative of it, right? So, and what's appreciative mean, right? When we appreciate something, we're paying positive attention towards it, right? So she stopped for a moment, she paid this positive attention to it. Okay, this is what I'm feeling. I am feeling frustration. I am feeling this. what does it mean for me? And she got curious. What does this meaning? What does this mean for me? How's this helpful for me? So now we're in appreciation. We could say that that is love, that she's now paying attention to it, a positive attention to it, right? So she's in appreciation of it. Okay, so what does this mean for me? Just looking in at it, right? I think that's one of the definitions of what love is. So it's not like, oh, frustration. Oh, this feels so good. Oh, this frustration feels good. Like maybe someone maybe someone can do that. Maybe that they have the ability to transmute, as the term that Jody used, to transmute that into a good feeling. Oh, this actually feels good. Maybe that someone has that ability. But it also could just mean I'm just looking at something with the idea that this is, okay, how is this helpful? And I don't know if you ever noticed this before, but curiosity, it's difficult, if not maybe even impossible, to be curious and resentful at the same time. Have you ever noticed that? Like I don't know that I've ever been resentful and curious at the same time. They don't seem to be the same spirit.
So if somebody says, I can't even begin to imagine what you were thinking when you did that, that's not the same as being curious and
Right, but is that real? Is that really curious? It's more of a statement of anger or frustration. But if that same person says, "I wonder why you did that. I wonder why you did that. I wonder why I'm frustrated." Suddenly, the energy is a different. It's not the same thing anymore. When we go into curiosity, now we're looking in at something. Now we're paying close attention to something.
And so I want to highlight what Bryan said. I was appreciating what was occurring for me. And when I was appreciating, what happened to my bank account? Gained appreciation. It gained rather than a loss. And so I was paying attention and giving appreciation for my experience. And rather having the credit card completely declined, I was supported and my bank account increased in order for the transaction to occur. So there's an appreciation in the account.
Cool. All right. So is there anything else regarding human experience? We talked about, you talked about how you're living your life, co-creator, and realizing even in everyday things that there's that appreciation there, the love. And Bryan, I was thinking about that was one great philosopher one time defined love by saying, what's love but a secondhand emotion? I think that was Tina Turner or somebody, But so if someone were to say, okay, well, just explain to me again in a short sentence, what is the human experience and how does spirituality live out in that human experience?
Yeah, say that in one sentence.
5 words or less.
5 words or less. What is the human experience? I guess that's very challenging. But the first thing that comes up is awareness. So as we talk about, again, we go back to appreciation, we go back to love. It seems like it's awareness. It's a heightened level of awareness, because the opposite of what Jody could have done, Jody could have said again, "Oh man, this sucks. I'm gonna go do something. I'm gonna go get high or go get drunk or go do right to not pay attention to this thing at all. To completely, there's lots of different ways that we can avoid looking in at something, right? She could have masked it. She could have found another way, and instead, so that's avoidance. That's looking away from. That's away from, right? And NLP, they talk about toward language and away from language, right? She's decided, instead of looking away at this frustration, the situation, let's look in at it and let's gain our awareness. And I know I'm going over one sentence, but I think it's coming to a heightened level and quality of awareness.
I like what you said there. Not only the heightened awareness, but the giving the attention to versus avoiding it. Because I think for so many of us, myself included, when I get a problem, push it away, go off and do something else, whether it's positive or negative, but I still go away and do something else. But as Jody mentioned, in her case, she did go off and do something else, but she was prompted to by having the fever and all that. But it wasn't I shouldn't say it wasn't a negative thing because you didn't feel very well, but the idea was that it was avoidance, but it really wasn't, because it was what you in the moment felt like you needed to do for this situation. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I experienced the symptoms of a fever and extreme tiredness. However, the symptoms dissipated within 24 hours. And still, I waited another 24 hours to check the bank. So it was a matter of 48 hours before I even put my attention on the bank accounts. So I continued in a state of acceptance and awareness of love, and stayed in a state of joy through the rest of my weekend. And on Monday, when I went to look at the accounts, as I said, the appreciation was there and the transaction went through.
I like that. It was acceptance rather than avoidance. We can
Yes.
avoid or we can accept. Now, see, there's a takeaway. Got that? When you're faced with that situation, embrace it and accept it. Just don't avoid it.
And Jody and I just finished our first round. We have a Wednesday group that we've co-created. And the book that we went through was Letting Go, David R. Hawkins' book, Letting Go. If you have not read this book, I think it's a special book to me. And he talks about the different levels of consciousness or different levels of awareness, right? And he has a scale that goes from 0 all the way up to 1,000, right? And 0 is death, right? And 1,000 is like the purest form of life that the human could experience, right? And at those levels, he also he does it in relation to emotions. He has like a scale of emotions, and at the bottom are grief and depression and all those things. And at the top is joy and love and oneness, right? And at those lower emotions, there is a lot of avoidance. It's basically pure avoidance. These things are happening to me. I'm just gonna think about someone who's depressed. They just want to go to sleep, right? And Jody did that. Actually, if you listen to what happened with Jody went through those levels of consciousness, right? She actually, if you listen to the story she told, right? Oh man, I'm sure there was a second where she was like, "Oh no, this sucks. What I just really want. This is happening to me. Let me go lay down." right? But she looked in at it, and it was a moment she was like, "All right, this is what's happening. This is what's happening." Right? And then she went higher. She continued up the levels of consciousness. This is what's happening. And then there was a level of surrender. At some point, there was a level of surrender. At that point and I think that maybe they coincide with the awareness, not the awareness, the acceptance. And we watched her go, and then something got created. So she actually, if we listen to her story very closely, she went through that. She went through all the levels of awareness, and to where creation happened at the end, right? So anyway, yeah, I think that awareness, or that awareness, and then that level of acceptance is a very, very important part of, as we talk about the spiritual experience. It's a very powerful thing.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, but we want to hear from you and find out, what do you see as the human experience? How do you live out that spirituality and that moment of presence? And what have been your experiences? You had similar experiences to what Jody had. In the meantime, we'd love for you to follow along, follow Jody, follow Bryan, get connected with them. I'm sure we will have links wherever you find this video to maybe the class or to other resources that you can have. We're trying to build out a community here. We want you to learn. We want you to be part of it. We want you to benefit from it. Jody, Bryan, thanks again. And this was a great conversation.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Bryan.
Have a great day, guys.